let's also be aware that they're not coming here to seek sanctuary. And that's very
No.
telling to me, that they do not feel that the United States is a welcoming place for Jews, and that's disturbing.
Yeah, they absolutely know that they are going to be far more welcome in Israel at this point than they will be in the U.S. And I mean, I understand that because Netanyahu has made it clear, and the state of Israel has made it clear that they are welcome to come there, and they're expecting an even larger number of immigrants out of France and other areas in Europe than they had last year at this point, and I feel it's awful, and maybe, it's kind of giving up, but at the same time it's one of those situations where you kind of are glad that they're listening to what's going on and realize and seeing the writing on the wall and getting out now rather than staying around like they did before, say, World War II. It's better to get out now than suffer through something horrible that could happen.
Right, and now let's wait, or let's see what Paris and what France does specifically, especially since they are, for that area, a tourist attraction. Will they start losing tourism? What will they do to make not only the people who visit there feel safe, but the people who live there? Not everyone is leaving. People are deciding to stay and stand their ground, and they deserve to know that France is going to be there when the cameras leave. When
Yeah.
it's no longer news, they need to know that car bombs and things of that nature will not continue to happen.
Right, that they have to know that their synagogues aren't going to be firebombed. People are going to have to know that France and Paris specifically is safe for them. And I hope that the French government has gotten that message and will start to actually be proactive in this, because it is partially the fault of the French administration that this has happened, because the current administration has been, and previous administrations have been, way too easy on people and have let this multiculturalism get a little bit crazy to the point where they don't have control over their populace anymore. And one of my other stories for this week is actually related to the Charlie Hebdo attack as well. A lot of this is all sort of related. It's sort of been a domino effect, I think. A German tabloid in Hamburg had been reprinting the cartoons that caused the initial shooting at the Charlie Hebdo offices, and on Sunday, so very, very recent, they were firebombed. A couple of Molotov cocktails were thrown into their building at the headquarters of this tabloid. Apparently, no one was actually hurt, but there was quite a bit of damage to the building itself. But the fire was put out fairly quickly. This is, it's a dangerous situation we're in. As people who are in the media, I worry quite a bit about what's going on. Not that I have an office to be firebombed or, anything but it should worry everyone that this kind of attack on freedom and freedom of expression is happening.
Right, and let's also stop and realize what these terrorists are actually attacking. I mean, a newspaper that is equal to our Mad magazine. That
essentially,
is,
yes.
That is what has you pissed off to the point of killing 12 people. I mean, that's disturbing, because there are worse articles, there are worse books that are damning Muhammad, that are damning whatever religion they profess to be, a part of, or whatever organization they profess to be a part of, that if just the act of drawing a cartoon is worth, to them is worth taking your life. That's just, I mean, how are we supposed to take that religion seriously? I know that not all Muslims are terrorists, but can we look at the amount of terrorists that we've had in the last decade to 2 decades? I would not feel like I'm wrong in saying that more than 90% of them have professed to be a member of the Muslim faith. So, there's a problem with that.
Yeah, it's a serious issue, and people need to address the fact that they can't just write them off and say, "Oh, well, this isn't related to Islam because my version of Islam says that killing people is wrong." When you have such a preponderance of violence coming from a group of people that are being taught a religion, you have to question, what is it about this a religion that even if it isn't a violent religion, which, as a person who has read the Quran, I disagree with people who say that it's not a violent religion, but that's neither here nor there. The problem is what is wrong with this religion that makes it so easily corruptible? There is something going on here that makes this religion and its followers very easy to goad into violence by, whatever leaders are encouraging it. And it's a serious problem. I mean, I'm sorry, I get offended. Lots of people make me angry by their very existence. Stupid people, atheist activists, But you know what? I don't go shoot people when they do something that pisses me off. I write a blog post about it, or I talk about it on this radio show, and make my feelings known, and that's the end of it. I'm not going to go out and hurt someone because they do something I disagree with. That's insane.
Right, and we're talking about a form of art. I mean, it's a cartoon, and if Christians or Catholics were to start bombing or were to have blown up, I think the museum, it was here in the Brooklyn Museum when they had the painting of the Virgin Mary and they had cow dung all over it. If a Catholic had gone in and decided to blow up that museum, you can't tell me that the mainstream media wouldn't have been tearing apart the Catholic religion over one individual doing this. And why can't we hold the Muslim religion with the same standards? And I would like to know, if there is really 1.2 billion Muslims out there, why is it 2 terrorists are able to kill 12 people and there is almost a virtual silence of those trying to say that that's not right, that what they are, professing and what they are saying and what they are doing does not fall in line with who we are and what we believe. If it really was different, if it really was not in the same, purview of what you do, then why are you being so quiet? There is 1.2 billion of you. If someone did something that was derogatory against the Catholic Church or anything of that nature, you would hear the Pope would come out and say something. There would be clergy coming out and saying something against that individual and against that act. I have not seen that. I've seen actually more people who are in favor of what the terrorists did coming out and even putting it in the New York Times, their op-ed pieces and all this crap about how what these individuals did was correct and was in line with their Quran and with the Islam faith. So what are we supposed to believe?
What are we supposed to believe at that point? And that's the thing, is it's interesting to note that it's not as if this Charlie Hebdo had only been publishing inflammatory stuff against Islam. This is a group that published tasteless cartoons about pretty much every religion and philosophy under the sun. They went after every race, every creed, every philosophy, because it was funny, or at least funny to their readers. I mean, I generally think their cartoons were a bit tasteless, and not something that I would have personally found amusing. But but why is it that there were no Catholics going after them for making fun of Catholicism? There were no Jews going after them and trying to kill them because they made fun of Judaism. This is the only religion that has gone after them and tried to attack them, not only now, but 2 years ago when they firebombed their offices in Paris. So this is the second attack they've had from Islamic extremists, and no one else is attacking them. We might verbally say, no, what you said was wrong or what you said was tasteless, but we're not going to try to stop them from printing or try to kill them for it. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Right, and I know that now the new worry and concern in Paris, France, and in Europe, basically, is they claim that sleeper cells have been woken up. That are planted not only throughout Europe, but actually they say in the United States as well, what that means and how many sleeper cells we're talking about, and what exactly their purpose is in all of this and who exactly activated them is still a mystery. So, it could be true, it could be false, but based on what's been happening already, and we're only 11 days into the new year, I'm worried.
I'm worried this is going to be an extremely problematic year for the Western world in regards to this. And unless we're willing to be extremely strong in our stance and actually go after these people, which I kind of doubt that our government will, the European governments, that's another question at this point. But unless we're willing to actually fight back, this could be a very, very bloody year for us in the Western world. And I'm kind of a little bit scared.
Right. Well, at least the European countries are not afraid, or they don't hesitate to call a terrorist, which is still a problem for me with this administration, that ever since he's been in office, it's like he is afraid of the word. He doesn't want to use it. He doesn't want to say it. He doesn't want to give anyone that label. And it's like, you have to know who your enemies are, and you have to call them that. We have enemies. He's acting like we don't. Like we're supposed to be appeasing everyone from the worst of the worst to the best of the best. And you can't lump them all into one basket and hope we all get along. They are our enemies, and we have to acknowledge that. And in our acknowledging of that, we also have to then help our friends who are dealing with the very enemy that we have. I mean, when our enemies attack our friends, are we not supposed to go and help them?
Right, and it's not just his administration that has this problem, it's liberals in general, like Christine Amanpour, who I actually had a chance, when I was in journalism school, she actually, I believe, came to the school to speak, and I was just like, no, I'm not going to have anything to do with that. She's crazy, and so deluded, I don't understand how she is as famous as she is. But she referred to these people as activists. How do you use that word in reference to this? Not only is it offensive to anyone who is an actual activist for any movement, but they're terrorists. They're not activists. It's a simple word. It has the same number of syllables, yet she seems allergic to using it. And I just don't understand that.
I've even heard liberals be quick to compare what these people are doing to the Tea Party movement. Like they're the same thing.
When is the last time that a Tea Party group got together and firebombed an office, or went into a building and started shooting the place up or bombing things? That's not at all similar. I don't understand how they get how they decide to do this. It's this level of respect for a movement and an ideology that is so vile, and I don't understand it. I mean, I don't know. It's a frightening thing. And you get over, and it's a wonder that they're able to have this level of respect when even the most moderate of Islamic countries have no respect for freedom, no respect for, liberty. And these are the things liberals are supposed to be standing for. But, you get situations like in Saudi Arabia right now, a blogger has been sentenced to 10 years in prison and 1,000 lashes because he questioned Islam and he insulted Islam. And how is that something that we aren't hearing more about? How is it something that we're not, terrified of? But this is supposed to be one of the more moderate countries, despite the fact that they won't let women drive cars. But,
I was about to say, when it comes to their laws, for some reason we stay very quiet about it, because to acknowledge what they do would mean that we would have to be actively engaged in trying to get them to change their ways. And this president, and I tend to agree to some degree, it is not for us to make everyone a democratic or a republic. Not everyone can live the way we live and govern the way we govern. So, there has to be a certain level or a certain amount of you do it your way and you live in your country and we live in ours. And unfortunately, like you said, Saudi Arabia is the better of the worst, but that still doesn't like bode well. It doesn't say much.
Still leaves them pretty bad, right? Well, I think the real reason that they never bring up this kind of stuff, they don't like to talk about the laws in Iran. They don't like to talk about the laws in Saudi Arabia, because to talk about that actually destroys this concept that they have that all of this other violence is extremist.